Hi everybody. I will confess that after doing like a gajillion public speaking events, I'm actually a little bit nervous about this one because I care about the content so much. And while I have presented this content in front of a lot of people individually, I've never presented this content in public. So please be kind. It's, I think, very important work, and I'm really excited that I have this opportunity to share it with you. So, I am Janice Fraser. I am now on the people team at Pivotal, and part of my job includes sort of examining all sorts of issues, and this is one that I feel very personally about. So, let's see, where are we going to go from here? Keep in touch. I am Clever Girl. I will warn you, this is my Twitter handle. Right now, my tweets are a little bit political, kind of bit. That might shift sometime in November. But I'm also Clever Girl on Slideshare, and I've already posted these slides to Slideshare. What I want to tell you is that the slides I'm going to present to you don't have a lot of text on them, a lot of detail. I am preparing a version that has full notes and footnotes. So if you check back in a day or two, you'll see the full text version as well. Okay, so who am I? Why should I be here talking about this? I've been working for a really long time. I am older than I hope I look. I started my professional career as a manager. My first manager job was in 1992. And since then I've done many things, including being at Netscape shortly after the IPO. So without going into a lot of detail about all of this, I do want to say that I'm speaking on behalf of myself today, not on behalf of Pivotal, even though they're a sponsor. Thank you for sponsoring. So to open this, I want to say that I think that the world of tech and the world of women in business has come a long way since my business partners at one time, when they tried to deny my maternity leave retroactively, because in their view, parenthood was a lifestyle choice. Yeah, so that actually happened. The amazing thing about that is that I only realized that it was gender bias over this summer, and it happened decades ago. And that kind of gaslighting, denial sort of mindset is part of what makes this problem of women and diversity and inclusion in technology so pernicious. And so my belief is that we have to be explicit in understanding the systems that we work in. You know, and judgment aside, it just is. We are humans. And this is the place that we're in. And so what we want to do is go like, okay, here's what's true. Now let's deal with that and work with it without letting it kind of run our world. So I brought this on stage because I just want to share with you, this study is a huge, important study. It was co-sponsored by McKinsey and Lean In. You'll see it's all curled up. That's because it came out 2 days ago, and it's one of my most important references. And it's an update of research that was done 4 years ago, so I had to kind of change this slide and some other things. But get it? It's called Women in the Workplace 2016. This diagram shows the percentage of men and women at each stage, kind of in career development up the ladder. What percentage are men and what percentage are women? And so you can see it's just not proportionate. Now, this is for kind of business overall. But it's also true in technology. And I will say it's not remarkably worse in technology when you look at the breakout data. But this is the reality, that as we move in our careers, women are not heading for the C-suite. And that doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense that a room full of men and women with good intentions who know that men and women are equally skilled should somehow, inadvertently, accidentally end up with this situation continuing even to this day. Now, the saddest thing about that data is that 5 years ago, the percentage of females entering at the entry level was about 53%. And now, women entering business at the entry level, at the individual contributor level, is about 46%. That's a big difference in only 4 or 5 years. So like something weird is happening. And I think that we all can be part of changing those dynamics. So what I set out to do, like I've read every article, I've read so many books, And I found it baffling, like, because they're like, it's implicit bias, it's how people talk in meetings, it's how you're promoted, it's mentorship, and you get just bombarded with thousands and thousands of articles and pieces of advice, every one of which individually makes sense, but there's no cohesive picture. So what I wanted to do was figure out what is true in the world. So I did what grad students would call a lit review. I went out and I found all the literature I could, and I tried to synthesize it into a cohesive picture. Like, I literally have a stack of articles this big that are all marked up. And then what I wanted to do, because I'm a sort of designer by trade, back in the way back days, I had to make a picture because I understand the world in pictures. So I synthesized the information, I made a picture. And then my ultimate goal was to make an explicit strategy for what could each one of us do, male or female, white or black, doesn't matter. What can we all do to participate in making the system different than it is now? So that's what I did. So when I said I had a big, huge list, I meant I have a big, huge list of resources, and I've gone through every one of them. In the full text version that will be posted later this week, all of the claims I'm about to make are footnoted. None of this is my opinion. Everything I'm about to talk about comes from legit research. McKinsey, Stanford, Anita Board, Catalyst, right? I could go on and on and on. A bunch of stuff in HBR. All of these are clickable links on the download. So here's what I found in summary. Senior women get fewer key opportunities than men. This happens to just be true. Self-reinforcing factors bias leadership pipelines against women. Even good men and good women are biased in how they interact and what the power dynamics are. And women do this to each other. It's not something that men are doing to women. We all are complicit in this. The good news, research from leading institutions, and the one I'm going to cite is Stanford's Claimant Institute, has identified a very small number of causal patterns, and this is what's been missing for me, is identifying where are the causes, what's the root cause, and how can we change it, right? Because this is a system, there are inputs and outputs. And what we want is to know what are the causes that are, so that we can change it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. The final thing, which is very hopeful, is that there is evidence, ample evidence, that this can be reversed through sustained effort over time, rooted in belief. Sustained effort that is not rooted in belief won't change anything. It doesn't matter how many coding camps of adorable children that we sponsor. Those are noble, wonderful efforts, and I support them wholeheartedly, but they will not change who we are in our daily work and what happens in our own companies. And that's what I care about. Okay, so here's that good news. Stanford researchers have found 3 causal factors. Assignments and promotions is one. Talent reviews and calibrations, and I will define that in a little bit. And power and team dynamics. Those are the 3 things that seem to have causal sort of characteristics to them. There's a picture being taken. I will wait to it. All right. Now here's the one slide I promised you. In the talk title on the web, I said it's all summarized in one handy-dandy diagram, but I'll tell you there's a whole lot packed into this one handy-dandy diagram. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over here, and we're going to work our way to the left. So we're going to start with the outcomes. One of the things that we know is that stretch assignments are 70% of the growth that leads people to senior leadership positions. So the question might be, what is a stretch assignment? Well, a stretch assignment is something that you don't already know how to do. It's something that takes you just a little further, that acknowledges where you are and pushes you out. Now here's the trick. Women are subjected to this thing called the prove it again bias. So over and over again, we're given assignments and we're asked to prove again our technical skill, our leadership skill, our strategic vision. So when you have a prove it again bias at play, you never are going to get a stretch assignment because you have to prove it again before you're given the thing. So you're only given assignments that you've already demonstrated you can do. Oops. So 70% of advancement comes from the development that happens as a result of stretch assignments. That's thing 1. there are 6 outcomes for women, and these are the outcomes. We're going to start with glass cliff. The glass cliff is a term. You can Google it. It's awesome. It is a particular kind of stretch assignment that is disproportionately given to women. The classic example we all can relate to is Marissa Mayer. What kind of a CEO opportunity can a female executive get? Well, it's one where there's a company in trouble, where there's a turnaround, where there's already a kind of predisposition toward failure. And women actually are mentioned more often than men when these difficult situations come up. So it's evidence in some ways, in this backwards way, that women are really respected. So women are given these assignments, and often when they're given these assignments because they're good with people. And all problems are people problems. So, hey, I know, I've got a really crap assignment. Let's give it to the girl. Not that I'm cynical about this. But I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And so inevitably, that blue line with the square at the end, that means it's a dead end. The dotted line means that if you are really extraordinary, you can actually kind of make it work. But it's a lot harder. So now let's go above that staff role. There's this phenomenon called the scissors effect. There's this phenomenon where over the course of their careers, women move from line. Line is anything that contributes directly to the revenue of a company. Sales, marketing is questionable. Sometimes it's included, sometimes not. Engineering in our field, for sure. Right? All of those things are considered line. As they get to director level, you see very dramatically women start to move towards staff roles. Now, I love my company, and I actually really am happy in my current job. But about 6 months ago, I was moved out of my line role and into a staff role, and there's a very good chance I will never go back. Because people do not move from staff roles to line roles. That migration just doesn't happen. And people in staff roles are never invited into the C-suite except the CFO. So you'll see a disproportionate number of female CFOs. So when there's one woman in the C-suite, it's a female CFO, almost always. Okay, so that's staff roles. Now laterals. When you have prove it again bias, you're like, oh, hey, she's really good at this thing. Let's put her in this other place that does exactly the same thing, but in a different part of the company. That'll be a really good growth opportunity for her. But she gets there, and she's doing exactly the same thing she's already good at. That's not a stretch. That's not, after she builds the relationships that we heard about earlier, like she's like, okay, I'm good. And does she get into that flow zone we heard about earlier? No, she might get a little bored. So, laterals. Sidelines. You get a big stretch assignment, it happens to be a glass cliff or something, you go into the velvet penalty box, which is the place you go to pretty much end your career. And it happens a lot. I've watched it happen to numerous women over the last 5 or 6 years. I'm 50 years old, so these things, right, at this point, they happen to women in their 40s, more than, I think, any other time of life. And after a while of these staff roles, laterals, sidelines, glass cliffs, it's harder. You're just like, screw it, I'm going to go start a farm. A good friend of mine recently left her senior director role and literally is traveling the country, shopping for a place where she and her husband can set up an aquaponics farm because she's just done. Okay, so how does that happen? How do these assignments get made? It turns out there's a thing. That thing is called a talent review. There's also a talent calibration that's a little bit more like what Oracle does, where you score people and you fire the bottom. We're not going to talk about that because we're all moving away from that. That's a little bit not who we are. So talent reviews, though, are formal or informal situations where groups of people make assessments about who's the up-and-coming talent, what is the future leadership of this company, what's our succession plan. So sometimes we get formal succession plan. So the talent reviews are the places where you go like, okay, of this body of potential people, who are the ones we're going to start really grooming and nurturing for advancement? That's when you start to think about, oh, the choice assignment over here, open a new office over there. Let's get those people that are high potential into those situations. All right, great. So how do the talent reviews get informed? You'd think that it was things like, performance evaluations. But it's not performance evaluations that really have the most impact. 20% of leadership advancement happens in the form of sponsorship, not mentorship. So the question is, what is sponsorship? Well, sponsorship, to be quite frank, is a bit of a quid pro quo kind of relationship. It's like mentorship on steroids, where the person who is actually the sponsor is like, hey, I think you have leadership potential. I hope you're going to stay on my team for a long time because I think you rock. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you hard feedback when it's time. I'm going to help you understand how to grow and get better. And by the way, when I'm having conversations over on the side that you can't hear, I'm going to defend you against, and I'm going to shield you from difficulty. And I'm going to throw your name in the hat when those choice stretch assignments come up. I'm going to be like, hey, there's something really cool that's about to happen. Let's see if we can't get, Bob or Mary or Eddie or whatever your name is, into that stretch assignment. And that's how it works. Now, the nice thing that happens is that sponsorship is very natural within a type. I naturally sponsor a whole lot of young women who are up and coming in their careers. But who holds the power positions in our companies? We saw that slide with the diagrams, all men. We naturally socially network, professionally network with people within our type. And that means male, current or former engineers are more likely to develop natural sponsorship relations with male engineers. And that leaves out everybody who isn't of type. Now, in other places, the type dynamics are different. So we have an office in Beijing. I'll bet their type is different. We have offices all over, and each one of those offices might have a slightly different profile. But right now, in the United States, the dominant leadership type is, I'm sorry to say, white and male. In the technology industry, it's predominantly former engineers. And those people tend to naturally gravitate toward networking, mentoring, socializing, advocating for, promoting, developing people like themselves. And the thing is that this is not sinister, it is not deliberate, it is a natural manifestation of what it is to be human. And to counter that, we have to take active, deliberate action. So, like I said, mentorship helps. Performance evaluation really aren't that significant in terms of developing people towards senior leadership. So what I want to share with you is that now that we see what the model is, how the system really works, and again, none of this is my opinion, this all is coming from a vast amount of literature by people far smarter than myself. What I want to say to all of us is, let's get smart about how to use that system effectively so that we're not sidelining and forcing out people of high potential. So, with regard to networks, this is, I think, the very beginning thing you can do. Reach across type. Reach across type. If you think that engineers are cooler than people who work in G&A, which is the accountants and the lawyers and the HR people, just know that there are a whole bunch of people who have moved over there because it's their only choice. And they are smart. And some of them have PhDs, and they're empathetic, and they have potential. And you should get to know them and respect them. If you go to lunch every day with the same group of people, gals or guys, I go to lunch with women all the time. It is not helping my mentees and my sponsees, my proteges. I need to develop relationships with the gentlemen in the office. I need to develop relationships with the engineers in the office. So on all sides, we can reach across type. We can make friends, get to know who they are, understand their strengths, figure out how they work, and then introduce them to other people that they may not otherwise have encountered. I've started inviting our HR people to give tech talks at lunchtime. And you know what's amazing? It's going over great. People love it. They're not just talking about silly HR stuff. They're talking about, like, how do you give meaningful feedback? Like, it was awesome the last time we did it. Sponsorship. Be one, find one. Be one, maybe find a couple. Healthy sponsorship is not cronyism because it is earned. It is earned, and you can lose it if it's not working. If you are a sponsor, you are holding your sponsee to actually developing and earning those stretch assignments, but you're taking a personal interest in someone and helping them to become the person that you believe they could be and contribute to your company to the level at which you think they could contribute. So when it is honest, when it is real, it's very, very healthy, and it is essential to all of our companies becoming what they ought to be, reaching their potential. So be one final. When you see opportunities in your own career or in the careers of the people that you manage and lead, watch out for sidelines, laterals, glass cliffs. Watch out for when you're inviting them to move from a line role to a staff role, and be aware of what that means. That means that they will never, statistically speaking, reach the corner office. And that's okay as long as it's a choice. Before I took my current staff role, when it was sort of presented to me as an option, I did not ask anyone's permission, but I put myself on the calendar of 8 of our most senior leaders, from the president and the CEO across the company. And I interviewed each one of them for half an hour. And I said, here are my concerns. Here's what I need to know from you before I take this role. So I took the power into my own hands. And for the first 4 months of doing this role, I kept telling myself, I haven't gotten fired yet, so I must be okay. And it's been almost a year now, and I haven't gotten fired yet, and I keep getting new and bigger stretch opportunities, so I think I'm in a good place. But I did it with my eyes wide open, knowing the cost that it would have to my career. Now I want to share with you, and there are a bunch of people from Pivotal in the audience today, so I'm a little nervous about saying this. But before I decided to take on this work and present it, and I'm presenting this to you, having shared and essentially asked permission from our chief people officer, because I didn't want to do this and if he didn't approve. So I'm presenting it as my work rather than Pivotal. But before I did this, I had to have a conversation with myself. And that conversation went like this. If you do this work, if you present it to the CEO, if you really stand behind this, you may never get another promotion again. Are you okay with that? Now, I don't think that's the kind of company that Pivotal is. And I don't think that this is going to kill my career. And I'm far enough along in my career that I kind of don't care. But I decided it is worth my future earning potential to figure this stuff out and to start talking about it in public. Because if we don't talk about it in public, how are we ever going to get over it? And I'll tell you, it was not fun to live in this system and not know the system for what it was. I don't want to be accidentally victimizing another generation of leadership, male and female, by not telling this story so that you can make explicit strategies for how to manage the reality of your career and the career of the people that you hire who you care about. So that is really all I have to say. Thank you very much, and I'll take any questions if we have the time.